So the topic for today's presentation is sales maximization and stock optimization of a Samsung shop sector. Coming to my project, ma'am, the major objectives of my project is to maximize profit and optimize stock for the shop. The major issues faced by the shop was low sales of smartphones during post-pandemic period. So during the peak COVID-19 pandemic, the sales for the shop were pretty good, and the shop was profitable. But during COVID times, uh, the sales reduced drastically, and there were stock leftovers as well. Uh, and after the post pandemic, it was expected that the sales would increase, but it did not increase as expected. Uh, because now coming to the poor stock management during pandemic times, uh, since there was a lockdown of around 6 months, uh, there was a stock leftover. Uh, there was basically a majority leftover of around 50%. Uh, and after the pandemic, uh, it increased further because the shopkeeper bought the new smartphones. Basically, Samsung introduced its new category, which is luxury category. So, in order to compete with its partners and to increase sales, the shopkeeper bought them. But since the sales did not happen as expected after the pandemic, it had to more stock leftovers, leading to losses for the shop. Uh, Coming to your customer retention rate, after the pandemic, uh, consumers, it was very difficult to retain customers since they were habitual of using the e-commerce market for their daily chores, and uh, moreover that moreover and since they basically either there were no new product for some times in the market, as the market wanted to basically reduce the stock leftovers for the previous year. So there was no new product for some times in the market. So the and customers also wanted to save because it was an unexpected time and no one knew what would happen next. So they wanted to save for the future. Now coming to my data, ma'am, I have collected data for 3 financial years. Uh,
Okay.
the 3 financial years from 2018 to 2021. I have sales and stock data. Uh, in order to collect the data, basically the shop owner used the busy software, and he just basically I downloaded the data from the software, and then comes the data cleaning part. The collected sales data had some missing values and some and variables which were not much important and had no impact. Uh, those variables were removed. And for data cleaning and data analysis, I use basically Microsoft Excel. Uh, so by analyzing the data, I have divided the data in order to be organized. So the data was divided into 3 parts: mobile phones, tablets, uh, and SSAs. And in order to further simplify the data, I categorized all the 3 categories based on the price segment. So yes, from 0 to 15,000, it's budget category. 15,000 to 30,000, it's mid-range category. Then uh, 30 to 50 is premium mid-range. Then 50 to 80 is basically uh, flagship category, and above 80 is luxury category. And after analyzing the data, recommendations were provided in order to improve sales and to select the optimal product which would lead to those sales and would lessen the burden on on the inventory. So the first problem that the shop faced was low sales problem uh, across all ranges of product after the COVID uh, pandemic. So I made a basically a revenue trend, which is basically a stacked column bar chart, which basically shows the revenue generated in all the three financial years in each quarter, and each column shows the revenue generated from each of the products sold by the shop. So if you see the columns, you will see that the flagship category contributes to the majority of the revenue, followed by the mid-range category. This was the trend in the historical data. But after the since here happened the pandemic, after the pandemic there was basically a new category was discovered. Basically, after 80 is prices, basically smartphones which are which are priced greater than 80,000, and they were the majority source of revenue, followed by the mid-range category. And after the pandemic, sales shoot up, but this trend did not continue, and sales fall drastically, as you can see here. And this is the basically the main problem faced by the shop here to rectify the low sales problem here. Now coming to the basically the next graph. Here I have described a correlation between the volume and the revenue using the historical data. Uh, so in the historical data, so using the historical data, a scatter plot was made, and in the from the scatter plot we can see that the flagship category and the luxury category are low volume, high revenue products. Uh, these are the major reasons for the stock leftovers. Although they have a huge product margin, but if left in the inventory, they lead to losses. Coming to high value, low revenue products, uh, the budget and the mid-range segments consist of this category. Since uh, these products are cheaper and economical, so these are mostly used by the consumers. And if you see the quantity sold by the shop here is very much in comparison to the flagship category. Uh, according to me, they should focus on the budget and the mid-range smartphones. This would help them in increasing the revenue. Coming to the low volume, low revenue category. Uh, Here comes this consists of the premium mid-range category, which falls between the basically the budget category and the flagship category. Basically, which these are priced between 30,000 to 50,000. Uh, these have almost no impact in the sales, because if we not focus much, then also I think the shop should not focus much on this, should focus more on high revenue, low revenue products. And for the low revenue, high revenue products, basically the flagship category and the uh, luxury category, they are the major sources of income. So they should follow the process of JIT, just in process. So according to customer demand only, the shop should buy the product and then deliver to the customer. This would help them in reducing variety of costs, like warehouse cost. Then this would help them in quality checking as well. Uh, and would help them in reducing warehouse cost, and then this would lead to uh, more savings and hence more profit. Now coming to the second problem, which is the stock optimization. So if you see the revenue Pareto analysis, uh, uh, according to the graph, we can see that around 80% of the revenue is generated from the first four categories, which is basically 20% of the total SKUs. So I would recommend, according to this, that they should focus only on the first four categories, first four or five. The basically the top management should focus on the first four categories. This would help them in uh, uh, since they these are the phones are the major source of income for the shop. They should focus on only on these four categories: a flagship phone, mid-range phone, budget phone, and premium mid-range phone. Uh, in this table, we can also see that the lower that the bottom products uh, are the source of each revenue. So we should basically discard them. We should not, the shop should not sell power banks or batteries or flagship tablets. These are consumed by very few customers uh, in the market. Uh, since these are the major sources of income, uh, shop should focus more on selling these categories basically. So now comes the predictive analysis. So in order to optimize the stock, we can use the basically historical data to uh, predict the number of mobile phones which will be sold by the shop in the next quarters. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, I have represented the quarter starting from basically quarter one of 2018 represents one, and consecutive 1, 2, 3, 4 is for 2018-19. 5, 6, 7, 8 is for 2019-20, and 9, 10, 11, 12 is for 2021. And since 2020, I had the data for 2021, but since it was the data was of COVID-19 pandemic, I haven't used it for predicting the future. Uh, I have used 2018, 19, and 1920 data in order to predict future uh, for 20 for 2022 quarter one and quarter two. And now, what does this graph represent? So this is the blue line. This blue line represents the historical data. This green line represents the your confidence bound, which is the minimum which the shop can sell. This red line represents the forecasted values, and this line represents the upper bound, which is basically the maximum value. Uh, So since the graph is decreasing, we can say that it's basically because uh, it's due to the effect of COVID. But since the upper confidence bound has a very significant values, we can say that the shop has potential, and we can implement new sales strategies which would help them to increase mm, their sales and optimize their profit. And these are the recommendations I have for the shop. When after having a brief discussion with the basically the shop owner and the workers there, I came to know that the shop never analyzed their data. They don't know about basically according to what the customer needs, which is I think one of the reasons of the low sales. And if they constantly perform analysis monthly or quarterly, this would help them uh, to perform better in the market. So in order to support this, I have uh, enclosed here a chart which is basically a customer behavior analysis. From the sales data only I have analyzed this. The sales data From the sales data I analyzed that 29% of the customers in the shop used mobile payments, followed by 27 which use debit cards, 25% credit cards, and 19% use cash. So there can be different. Uh, b- so the shop uh, can can introduce new offers related to mobile payment, basically payments modes, which would ease customers, uh, basically customers way of payment, uh, and we can provide them offers which would help us in customer retention. So, and the next recommendation is that the shop should start giving preference to the latest technologies like 5G and specifications, which are currently in demand. So, for this, I have included the sales, basically a pie chart, which shows sales by color preference. So, from the historical data, I came to know that 42.8% of the phones shop of the smartphones sold by the shop were of black color, followed by 29.8% were blue, and 99.64% were white, 7.08% were gold. Uh, and now, since in the during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a major issue of basically stock optimization for the accessories as well. But since Samsung has already moved chargers and headsets from its premium segment and flagship and luxury category, we can basically bundle these products and sell them. This would help them in reducing the stock leftovers as well. And the next recommendation would be to follow JIT process, just in time process, for premium flagship and luxury category, because these are the major revenue sources, but also they have a major uh, contribution in inventory problems. Uh, JIT advantage of JIT include re- uh, reducing waste cost, better product prices, and lower overhead cost. So the next recommendation from my side would be to have in-store promotions, which would help uh, help the shop to increase their sales, uh, and also to reduce the stock which is left over in the previous month or so. This would help them to attract new customers, and also to make a loyalty with the customers. And the last recommendation from my side would be to use the social media platform for promotions, uh, so in order to build awareness about the new offers and the loyalty programs that they introduce for their customers. So, ma'am, since uh, I started my project in September basically, uh, and I completed it, and then I basically started this. So I submitted my recommendations to the shop, and the shop uh, implemented them. Uh, and uh, from the sales chart, you can see that the mid-range phones and the phone sales have increased a lot, followed by flagship, and then comes the budget phones. If we see the evaluation, uh, there is an increase in the sale of budget phones from 10.9% to 14.45%, and mid-range 27.96 to 39.7%. And if we see the overall sales, so the sales has increased by almost two times compared to last year, which is 2020-2021 financial year. And we have reduced the COVID effect problems as well after using these sales strategies and the recommendations uh, provided to the shop.